Aaron Copland, Module Number 2, Important Music Educators Who Inspired and Shaped the Career of Aaron Copland. In this module, I will present research and information regarding the wide range of musicians and composers with whom Aaron Copland studied under. I will discuss in detail Copland's travel to Paris to study under notable musicians, particularly Nadia Boulanger. Finally, we will discuss how Copland's studies with these influential musicians and composers developed and affected his career over time. Aaron Copland began composing short songs and musical works at the age of 8. At age 13, Copland began taking classical piano lessons from Leopold Wolfson, who served as his first real music teacher. At the age of 15, Copland decided that he wanted to become a composer after attending a concert performed by concert pianist Ignacy Jan Paderewski. He enrolled himself in a correspondence course to deepen his knowledge of musical theory. At the age of 16, Copland began studying with Manhattan-based composer Reuben Goldmark, who gave Copland formal lessons in harmony, theory, and composition. He began studying with Goldmark in addition to his piano studies with Wolfson. Reuben Goldmark instructed Copland on the fundamentals of counterpoint and composition. He inspired Copland to immerse himself in classical music, particularly following that of the Germanic style. He also furthered Copland's love for contemporary classical music. During this time, Copland found himself constantly intrigued by the European style of composition. Following his graduation from Reuben Goldmark in 1920, Copland applied for the newly developed Summer School of Music for American students at Fontainebleau, France. He was accepted and attended in the summer of 1921. Once Copland arrived in France, he found himself in a musical community far beyond anything he had ever known or could ever imagine. Copland began his studies with piano pedagogue Isidore Philipp and composer Paul Vidal. Copland found his studies with Vidal to be far too similar to that of his previous teacher, Reuben Goldmark. For fear that he would not reach his full potential, Copland decided to switch his studies from Vidal to Nadia Boulanger, who had been highly recommended by his peers. Nadia Boulanger is often credited for creating and shaping an entire generation of American musicians, one in particular being Aaron Copland. While studying with Nadia Boulanger, Copland was exposed to an eclectic mind and approach to composing, analyzing, and understanding music. Nadia Boulanger opened many doors for Copland by introducing him to world-renowned composers and music publishers. It is during this time that Copland published and sold his first piece of music as a composer. In a letter to his brother Ralph, Copland stated, "This intellectual Amazon is not only professor at the Conservatoire, is not only familiar with all music from Bach to Stravinsky, but is prepared for anything worse in the way of dissonance. But make no mistake, a more charming, womanly woman never lived." Later in his life, Copland also stated, it was wonderful for me to find a teacher with such openness of mind, while at the same time she held firm ideas of right and wrong in musical matters. The confidence she had in my talents and her belief in me were at the very least flattering and more. They were crucial to my development at this time of my career. After 3 years of studying with Nadia Boulanger in Paris, Copland returned home to New York City with an important commission from his beloved teacher. Copland composed an organ concerto for Boulanger to perform at Carnegie Hall. Following his studies and commissioned works with Nadia Boulanger, Copland was inspired by the neoclassical compositional styles of Igor Stravinsky. This began a new compositional approach, an abstract style of composing by Copland. He declared that he liked the more spare in sonority, the more lean in texture approach. This new influence in composition can be seen in Copland's piano variations, short symphony, and statements for orchestra. After utilizing the influence of Stravinsky in his own works, Copland took his talents to composing ballets based on American folk material. He also began studying with a prominent Mexican composer, which led to his El Salon Mexico. He composed various movie soundtracks, most notably for the movie of Mice and Men. And then he took his talents to composing vocal music. As such, he wrote the 12 Poems of Emily Dickinson and an opera, The Tender Land. Following his vocal works, Copland was inspired by the serial technique of the 12-tone school composer Arnold Schoenberg. Schoenberg's influences can be seen in Copland's piano fantasy and connotations. Unfortunately for Copland, his dissonant and 12-tone works were not well received by American audiences. After 1970, Copland ceased composing and focused on conducting for the duration of his career.